Welcome back to the Rangers News YouTube channel. My name's James Black and I'm joined by Cameron Willis and Jordan Carlisle as we now sit a matter of days away from what could be the biggest title party we've seen in a long time. Moved a step closer last night with a late 1-0 win over Livingston in West Lothian, and a night of fireworks both on and off the pitch. And we're going to kind of look at that in a bit more depth and look ahead to St Mirren this weekend and a potential title party. But before we do, I just want to ask that everybody likes and subscribes. We've recently just hit 5,000. We're heading towards 6, and it can really help us grow the channel, add more content, and start doing different things to bring us different types of content over the coming weeks and months. So, the game. That was something last night. The game itself was pretty poor in all honesty, but there's still plenty of talking points from it. So we'll get just a kind of general kind of overview it from you first, Cammy. Just what was your kind of overall thoughts in the 90 minutes and everything that came in between?
So I was like, what I expected, really. I expected Livingston to be hard to beat. I expected Rangers' chances to be tight half chances and be things that kind of flash across the goal or coming from set pieces, and them to be ridiculously compact. And it came to fruition. I think you have to maybe give them a wee bit of credit because they did make it really difficult for us. They were committed. But whilst there was times in the game, I thought that Rangers were a little bit off it, maybe a wee bit sloppy, and the ball was maybe bobbling around. I thought that we showed a real kind of determination to get it over the line. And I think particularly in the second half, that there was only going to be one winner. But I'd be a liar if I said that as it kind of edged closer, I was starting to think maybe this isn't going to be a night. And after everything at half time, it made me want to win it even more. It was certainly quite intense towards the end. But we got it over the line and another big 3 points. But everything I expected from the game, I think, and a tight 1-0, and I'm just happy it went in the favour of Rangers.
Jordan?
Yeah, I'd agree with most of that. I think it was probably going to go one or two ways with Livingston after that League Cup final, wasn't it? They were either going to be really deflated and it was going to be relatively easy, or they were going to be extra up for it, extra motivated to put things right. I think they were very physical, as you'd sort of come to expect, keen to utilise long balls and things like that. And they managed to break up Rangers play a bit in the first half, and as we talked about, that artificial pitch is is a real hindrance, as we all agreed on beforehand. But I mean, I think Rangers are noticeably a bit slower in possession. I thought Aribo was trying to create things in the first half and move about that front line, but there wasn't much coming off. But I think in the end, that created certainly enough chances to win the game. As Cammy says, it wasn't really. It was one of those ones where I think they had a far out forward maybe in the 80th minute. Sort of had the ball was bobbling about around the box and it looked like someone can get a shot off. But that was the first time it really sort of occurred to me that Livingston could actually win it. There was no real signs. And I think that's probably 3 clean sheets in a row against them this year. Like, I'm not sure they've scored against Rangers in the league, and they didn't really look like it at any point. Maybe a wee mistake from Hollander in the first half nearly led to something, but Rangers well worth it in the end. And yeah, it was fiery, and I think it's we'll probably come on to that, the Gerrard stuff in more detail and stuff, but it was
What happened with Gerrard?
I know it's been talked about a little bit since the game, but I don't know if you want to go into that now or not.
So before the game, there were a couple of changes to the starting 11. Patterson and Scotty Arfield coming in for the injured Leon Balogun and Yanis Hadji. Thoughts on that? Was that kind of the right 2 changes to make, or
I think we all expected Patterson, but Arfield coming in, I still think he's kind of getting up to speed. I think it was maybe just a little inch off it, but it was a good game to get minutes into his legs because there's bigger kind of tests to come, and I think he's going to be really important in Europe. So it was good to see him start. And again, Aribo starting on the right, I just think that his place he's just cemented his place in the team. And I think, like what Jordan was saying, with regards to him being maybe perhaps the most impressive player in the first half and try to create stuff in that, I just think that he's cemented it. And whether or not he drops back to allow Hadji in or plays forward, I think it's going to be really hard to shift them. But I wasn't too surprised with the lineup, though.
So once the game started, it was kind of dross. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was kind of crap. And then it all burst to life with the penalty, or the penalty claim that was an absolute stonewaller and kicked off the half-time fracas. On first viewing, what was your thoughts of it? Just without the replays, did you think it was a penalty, or did you kind of have that wee lingering doubt because
I had doubts. I had doubts when it happened. When I saw the keeper come out, as he's taking him down here. But then Morelos sort of went, it is hang time, and the air was so substantial.
It's like, yeah.
I thought, like he's maybe throwing himself here. And then when you see the referee come over and give it, is he initially? I think it's probably rare. There's a lot of times that referees have been conned by diving, giving penalties, but I haven't seen too many times where a referee comes over with a bit of authority and dishes out a yellow for simulation when it's not actually a dive. So when Beaton came over with a yellow card, I thought, oh no, it must have been a dive. It must have been. And then you see the replay, and oh my god, like he does clatter into his legs. It's just a total stonewaller. Yeah, and it's just it's difficult for Morelos. I can believe how well Morelos took it though, because you think if you're, it's maybe different because he's got them before. But if you're a player when he has actually legitimately dived, I think like it'd be offensive as a player if you've got yourself into a good position like that, got the touch on the ball first, which is the key thing, get it away from the keeper, you're taking it down, you've earned the penalty, you've done well, and then for someone to come over and basically tell you you're cheating when you haven't, must be very hard to take. But I mean, he took it like an absolute champ. He just sort of showed, maybe he's just fed up now. He's just come to realize that whatever happens, it'll be the wrong call if it's in Scottish football. So he just accepted it, which I was very surprised at. But it was good because he could have got himself sent off quite easily if he reacted badly to it. But obviously the bigger reaction came from Stevie G.
I thought, I can see Beaton's obviously just jumped to a massive conclusion, and I think the commentators and that were talking about how Morelos' reputation's gone before him. It doesn't matter. So you call the game as you see it. I feel as if that's a lazy kind of cop-out excuse for referees to do things like that. I think that, and again, I don't know if Morelos has had a long association with diving, has he?
He's had a few.
He's been done a couple of times.
It's appropriate. I don't think that he's like a out and out diver though. I thought that stuff was just a bit much. But I can see why Beaton kind of gave it because he does flop a little, but he screwed it up and he should have taken his medicine when Gerrard came up, but he didn't.
I do think the stuff about referees not letting players' reputations affect it. I do think that's kind of naive at times because, I mean, you watch these guys week in, week out, and you do tend to see certain, and not just Morelos here, there are other players at other clubs who maybe don't get it as often, as regularly, but they have that same kind of, you're a dirty player or you've got this reputation, and it does kind of impact on how referees deal with them. But for that one, I felt that...
That's my point.
When you look at
referees are get responsible to be professional. It's not the average Joe in the street. It's not like Alan Brazil calling Morelos a cheat on the radio. It's like you have a reputation to get these. You're actually being paid pretty well.
No, I get that.
And if you were to factor in somebody's reputation into decision making, it just seems unprofessional to me.
It does, but that wouldn't be the first unprofessional thing to be.
Oh no, I mean, listen, I get it happens.
That's kind of what I'm getting at. In an ideal world, absolutely, referees will referee for the first whistle to the last, purely on what's in front of them. But I think we've all watched football long enough, and we've seen it happen enough times with enough players, even outside of Scotland, that it does happen. Referees do let previous things kind of colour how, especially things that could be quite borderline. Like, so that penalty last night, I mean, I don't know what angle Beaton's got, but it looks like it does have a pretty good angle and should have done much better with it. But if you've got that nagging doubt, you're going to let that colour it.
I also think that's just part of it. It's an interesting one because I do take the point that it's maybe a lack of professionalism not refereeing here and now, because when it all, when you strip everything away, you're literally just refereeing the incident that's right in front of you. That's what it should be. But I also think, like with anything, people will do, it's almost a form of research that I think will colour people's decisions, referees' decisions coming into games. So they will know it's certainly a thing. I think before you've seen maybe with like Bobby Madden, which maybe actually worked in Morelos' favour before, the time when he's sort of, basically hugging him to keep him away from confrontation because he knows he's a guy with a fiery temper and he doesn't want him to go and get himself sent off. And I think it's something that they factor into things. Then the way that Morelos, the other issue is that with that being so clear, it's just two players completely on their own. It's either a dive or a penalty. So he's obviously seen that and thought, oh no, it's not a penalty, so I have to book him.
Mm-hmm.
When really it just compounds the error because you're punishing someone for, you're doubly punishing someone and making your initial mistake worse. So yeah, I definitely think that because people are human, referees are human in Scotland and everywhere else, it's a factor. And sometimes it can be beneficial, but I think you see there that it was very much to the detriment of Rangers last night.
I think it's definitely a factor, but I just don't think that it should be. I think we should hold referees to a higher standard than the average punter interpreting football matches.
I think what makes that one particularly worse is, and we'll hear Gerrard speak about it in a wee bit later on, is the fact that it wasn't just Beaton who got it wrong. See if Beaton had got it wrong and one of these linesmen, the fourth official, whoever else has gone, John, no, you've got this badly wrong. Brilliant, that would be great. But the fact that the linesman's not seen it, or the linesman's agreed, with Beaton's decision, the fourth official's agreed that it's a dive, that to me, pardon me, I mean, the referees, without being putting too fine a point, that they're absolutely shite in this country. They're awful.
I'd agree with that. See, the biggest issue that I have, right, is that, even Gerrard raised it post-match, is the fact that they're so stubborn. See, when they make a mistake, they double down. They're not allowed to be criticised. Even the idea of a manager criticising them and then getting a ban afterwards, it's just ludicrous. They're overly protected for referees that, as James puts it, are shite. Do you know what I mean?
So that all kicked off a mess at half-time with Gerrard confronting Beaton. I'll not repeat verbatim what was said because we'll probably not get to put this on YouTube and stuff. But Gerrard was fairly strong in his condemnation, but I think he was pretty, certainly at the start of it, was very fair, asking for an explanation. And Beaton simply brushing it off with just saying, I can't speak to you. That's a cop-out. I've been to Christ knows how many games in the last 25, 30 years where I have seen managers and referees walking off the pitch at half-time, at full-time, in discussion about what's going on. I've spoken to managers after games where they've come out and said, the referee explained what happened after the game. For some reason, John Beaton's completely been incapable of that. And even just saying to Gerrard, we'll speak about it inside, and just brushed it off as, no, I can't speak to you. Just kind of, Gerrard would get a booking and then a red card for foul and abusive language towards the referee. But kind of on the balance of things, was his approach fair?
I looked it to me. I mean, but I don't think he's really got a leg to stand on when the guy's getting sent off. Because as soon as you start swearing and that, you're giving the referee an excuse. And maybe Beaton's seen the camera right up in their faces, and once he's given them the yellow, he's went, oh no, this is going to be recorded or whatever, and flashed the other one. I think that maybe had a wee bit of influence on him flashing it too so quickly. But I mean, that's the issue that I just said. The referees are apparently impermeable for criticism, and they don't. And I mean, if you make a mistake, just say, listen, I made a mistake, sorry, let's move on with the rest of the game. It's not a big deal. Do you know, you don't have to sit and have that attitude. And I mean, I can get why Gerrard's frustrated, but you give them ammunition as soon as you start using abusive language.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think that there's far too much of it in the game in general. So I think there's so much over the course of the game that doesn't go punished that it is then kind of ironic if, I know it's slightly different, maybe someone approaching you, Gerrard's coming out of where he should sort of be, coming up and approaching him and using that language, but some of the, especially now with no crowds, some of the stuff that you hear is unbelievable abuse. And there was a game of St Mirren, and the linesman, there was a guy, one of St Mirren wingers, was giving it absolute stacks to the linesman the entire game, and he didn't get anything for it. So there needs to be consistency with that.
Is that not where the TV camera thing comes in?
Because I think that's a decent point because
if Beaton's just sitting, if Gerrard's just sitting arguing with him and there's not a wee cameraman darting around saying him, I don't think he gets sent off.
I mean, I think also, I think he's within his rights to feel that he needs an explanation for it. Also, it's the kind of thing where he's sticking up for his player who has been clearly wronged in this situation. The only thing is that you're probably not going to get anything out of it as such at the time, like, because he's not going to change the decision that's done now. But I also do, I thought it was really interesting from him, because the most animated, frustrated, angry he's been all season, and this is done. Like, the league is done. It's just a matter of when, but it means so much to him. Not only just, at Rangers, it's the first time he's ever going to win a league title. And you could just see how much he wants to get over the line. I think that's what loads of people, were really happy with and to see. And, it'll obviously be a massive shame if there was something that came that would mean he would miss big games and stuff like that afterwards. And he will regret that. I think you could see, though, that the anger carried over to after the game. So he apologized by saying, I took it too far with what I said, basically. But everything still stood for him an hour, even later than that, after what had happened. So that he was clearly incensed by it. Definitely a wrong decision. But yeah, I think if you maybe go up and you hand out the yellow card, maybe he was too hasty with the first yellow card, so you just book him, give him the yellow for it, and let him walk away, and then it becomes, not quite so big a deal. But I mean, you can't condemn like full on abuse of people, but that needs to be sorted out across the game, not just in this instance. But no, it's loads of passion, and I think the players will be pleased to see it, fans are pleased to see it, and everything. So as he says, he'll just take his medicine, but it's not harmed his reputation any. It's just made people like him even more, I think.
Did you see him mouthing in the stands like that?
I give him the stacks. Yeah.
Not that, like, was that amazing, man. I don't think John Beaton's his favourite ref. Like,
you heard him right after the goal as well. You could hear him just shouting directions into Mick. You could actually hear him just screaming Mick, Mick, Mick. And it's like, if you've sent him off and he's 10 feet away, it's like,
there's no one. I know it makes it does. It's strange because you send the manager to the stand during COVID, and he can just you could send him to the other side of the pitch, and he'd still be able to shout instructions. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I like to say I agree with Jordan as well with the passion thing. I think all the Rangers fans are loving it, and that kind of made the second half much more intense. Gerrard being sent off and everything that kind of followed, and as pressing, it just kind of made the whole thing much more kind of full of adrenaline.
And we heard from Gerrard after the game, just he's a bit calmer after the final whistle. Just he gave his view on Beaton and his assistants getting the penalty decision so badly wrong.
Well, it's a blatant penalty, it's a stonewaller, and I'm someone who wants to support officials because we're all human and we'll make a mistake, but what I can't stand for at this level is three people making the same mistake. They've all got clear views at it. I could see it and I'm the furthest away. There's three officials at this level who all get it wrong together. I can't have that. I asked for an explanation, he refused to speak to me. I didn't want to go there, to be honest with you. I got into trouble answering a similar question. I don't want to talk about the officials anymore. You're talking about real, officials at the top level of the game. And I'll go with one making a mistake. I'll go with that because we're all human, but I can't have it when three make the same mistake and they're all looking at the incident. That's unfair.
Right, so moving on from the half-time shit show, the second half kicked off. Rangers started off a bit brighter, I felt, and then 10 minutes in, things just got even more mental. The fireworks and the game getting stopped. I mean, I don't think I'm making a big leap in logic here by saying fireworks in the 55th minute was a bit of a coincidence. So I just, how mental was that? I think especially given the context of everything that's going on with all the COVID stuff and we can't go out, we can't go to games. You then had, I think, the group at round up about 100 people outside the ground watching through one of the corners. You can just see into the stadium. And then they set fireworks off. So, Cammy, just what were you thinking as we seen the night sky light up?
See, when you started going off, I was that engaged in the match because of the adrenaline, everything that had happened at half time. That it was like sensory overload a little bit. It was all popping off and all that. And I was like, where does that come from? And then the display was huge. Like, It was absolutely massive. But I mean, Rangers fans are going to have to celebrate, and I think as well that an impact on the players. Obviously, they have to stop the game and all that, but I think the players, particularly when we'll go on to their celebrations at the end of the video, but I think that G'd them up, seeing all these fans, because the fans haven't been there all season, and then then they see them outside going crazy, putting off fireworks displays. They would have known it was Rangers fans as well, but it just added to that adrenaline behind the match. But with regards to the COVID stuff and that, Rangers fans are going to find their way to celebrate. I think I seen something on Twitter about the police saying that they're on like alert for fans.
That's a fairly normal thing anyway.
I'd say so, but it just shows you that there's going to be an outpouring, and be it this weekend or in a fortnight's time, there's going to be a big outpouring. And if you think those fireworks breaching COVID protocols are bad, just wait and you see what happens when Rangers win the league, because I think it'll be pandemonium in Glasgow.
Jordan?
The shots, even we're looking at stuff today, the shot of the one from sort of pitch side and the displaying behind it's unbelievable. Like
the lander at the bottom of it,
yeah, it's a great shot. Here the cameraman has got it, but yeah, I think it's probably more of a surprise that it hasn't really happened to this point. They were very deep in the season without anything really happening that way. There was obviously stuff at the start of the season in different clubs where they're
at Livingston.
Yeah, and I think teams like Partick Thistle and stuff where there's wee vantage points.
Got it a fair bit as well. I think it just tends to be these grounds where I think a lot of the Premiership ones it's different because you've not really got many positions outside where you can look in.
Yeah,
places like Livi, Falkirk, Partick Thistle, where you've got kind of bits of ground nearby you can look at it as it has been quite common. The only time I actually seen the police do anything at Falkirk was when Rangers were down there in November.
More high profile. There was one after a game. It was an away game. Rangers won. Was it Kilmarnock or something? There was and
there were fans outside and the graffiti
outside.
That, yeah.
So there was something there, but I mean, there's been very little all season, which I think is probably a little surprising. And as Cammy says, I think it's probably going to kick off more and more in the coming weeks. Obviously, it's Stevie Davis carrying stuff off the pitch. This is probably not what he expected to him, but I mean, he dealt with it well as you would expect. But yeah, no, it was just interesting, and it definitely, obviously, a bit of smoke over the ground all added to sort of an atmosphere that was kind of weird because there was no one there. There was barely anyone there, but the tension with the Gerrard thing and the sort of importance of will it go this weekend, and then a bit of that just all added to what was a fairly dramatic game after a horrific first sort of 40 minutes.
It's weird. The kind of adrenaline of everything surrounding the match didn't really suit the game that was being played on the pitch.
Yeah, the game it was such a kind of tepid game. I mean, even after the break, I thought Rangers took a bit more control, looked a wee bit more livelier, but for me, it still felt at times that not so much going through the motions, but there just wasn't that kind of energy and zip that you'd maybe expect for a team that's potentially 180 minutes away from winning the title. But it did change. Literally, as I wrote in my match report last night, it looked like they could have played another 90 minutes and no scored. He does it. Mr. Morelos setting up another balloon party for his wife, need it. Imagine how many she's going to have to buy at the weekend, by the way, if we win the title. You know, find that win. It'll just be balloons.
It's going to be chaos. I mean, he had a few centres, to be fair. I didn't think it was going to be his night. The one where he came through, obviously he was one-on-one, but it's not an easy finish because of the angle, and, it doesn't help that he's right-footed, so he's going to have to go across. There's no real option to bend it in the corner. Not that he really does that anyway. He's very much a laces striker, but that was a decent chance then. He probably should have been braver, let's be honest, as well. The header from close range, he could have finished that off. If the keeper wasn't a concern, he would have scored, I think. Just maybe committed to it, or didn't commit as much as he should have done, but he was in the right place, the right time then, wasn't he, at the end? And it was just, see the reaction from him. Obviously, he's loving it. I just think it's a lot different prospect watching Rangers when he's in around the box. I mean, it's just so much more exciting And even if he's missing chances, I just felt that was what was missing. Even when like Rangers were doing so well, results were still coming. I just thought that was missing a bit from the performances earlier in the year when, like, yeah, it's all well and good. He's doing all this link up play and stuff, but when he's in there making stuff happen, roughing people up, getting chances. I just think that, Rangers are a much better prospect to watch, even if like the patterns of play and stuff aren't as good, if they're reliant on them playing up top. I just think it's more exciting when he's in there, and that was, he was just in the right place at the right time. It's good play from Kamara in the build up to it, and then Stevie Davis, as much as I obviously praise him, every time he shoots these days it seems to go about 40 yards over the bar. So the fact that he got it on target was a bit of a surprise, and it was a nice sort of guided effort, and then he was just there. Defenders a bit statuesque and finish it off. So I don't know exactly, but is that maybe 4 in his last 5, or I think something like that. So he's sort of got his mojo back a little bit.
He's a man. He's the absolute man. I love him, man. He's just a legend. Seeing he's run away, the whole team are mobbing him and that, and they're like, I absolutely agree. I think Rangers are much more like, it's just entertaining to watch. I think Rangers are a better team, but I think having Morelos in the pitch is just the entertainment factor is just so high. He's just such a funny character, but right place, right time. I thought that the two that when he kind of lashes it across goal, I thought both of them kind of sum up the Morelos. The fact that he isn't just that instinctual finisher, and disappointing the second one in particular didn't go in, because that would have been an absolute beauty if he'd managed to hit the target. But he's it was top notch, and it had to be him after everything in the first half. It had to be him to put it in, but that's Rangers' 8th 1-0 Scottish Premiership win of the season. It's our 5th in 2021. I mean, that's that is the mark of champions. You know what I mean? Keeping a clean sheet and winning 1-0 and 8 times. And it's impressive. And I was glad to see it be him, because I think that he's taken a lot of rubbish this season, particularly in Scotland. And even like his agent after the game complained about the penalty, and he'd complained about the compliance officer process and stuff. And exactly what you're touching on when you mentioned Rangers being more entertaining with Morelos on the pitch. It's a shame that there's been so many instances that he's been banned for things which are really not worthy of the press coverage that he's got. And whilst they might be petulant, I don't think they deserve to be banned for 3 matches and things like that. And it's a shame that one of the most entertaining footballers in Scotland has been sidelined for so much, not just this season but in seasons previously. But happy to see the wee man smiling, man, and hopefully he's smiling again this weekend.
Speaking of Morelos and entertainment, I'm guessing we've all seen Gerrard's post-match in Sky. So who's had the picture of Morelos dancing about the Sweet Caroline in their head all night?
So good, man. It's an absolutely amazing interview. You know what I mean? Because the scouse is coming right out of him as well, because you can see like the emotions kind of coming through him, and he says at the end that he enjoys listening to Sweet Caroline after a win. So I imagine that is now going to be quite an anthem for Rangers fans if it wasn't already.
And just as well, there's also, we seen on the pitch as the game finished, Tavernier embracing Morelos at the end. Some fault of that, Jordan.
I mean, they've been through it all, haven't they? Like, and it's a really interesting one, because obviously you have with Morelos, and when Candace was here, it was very much the idea of the two of them were thick as thieves, because Morelos didn't really speak English, although that interview we saw recently.
Amazing.
Big progress there. That was stunning. But I mean, it's an interesting one, because it's more like, you would imagine they've not had, in all seriousness, too many deep conversations over the last few years, but they've been through it all on the pitch, like, in terms of just as teammates, taking defeats, in terms of Tav trying to manage him as a captain, when he's been out with disciplinary things, also Tav being with him, create goals for him in terms of their specific roles in the pitch. They've had a lot of lows and a lot of criticism, both players, in terms of different media one, and then obviously the Tav Bottler one, and then quite a few then from Rangers fans as well. And to come through it all, you could just see how buzzing he was for him. And it's really interesting how it translates across, isn't it? Because the fans love him, but as Cammy said when he scored and everyone's chasing after him, it's clear all the players love him as well. And there's obviously been incidents that I think if you were a player, if you were Tav, that you'd have been really, really frustrated with him at times in the past, not just disciplinary, but maybe times when he's come back a little bit overweight, he's not been up to scratch, and you're really pushing to win something. But I mean, he's also delivered so many important goals and so many big moments and stuff. So it'd be a real shame if Tav isn't there. That's why I think if it goes to Parkhead and there's more chance of him coming back, with what Gerrard said in the update, it doesn't sound overly promising. But I mean, it'd be a real shame if he's not on the pitch when it's won, Tav. But I cannot think of a single footballer who deserves something more than he does to lift that title. And then I think people are even more excited to see Morelos over it.
I cannot wait to see that crazy bastard running about with his trophy, giving it big licks, and an empty Ibrox. Even less that it's an empty Ibrox. We've seen God knows how many years of players living it up big time when they're a full stadium. They've got the trophy, and you can. Morelos, I can't see Morelos giving a shit one way or the other. He'll be living it just the exact same as he would if the place was packed. But, so this weekend, before we look at the St Mirren game, we've kind of went a wee bit longer than the Livi game, and I thought. But St Mirren, do you expect it to be full throttle, balls to the wall? This is it. We're going to just go and smash this because that's what we need to do to potentially have a title party on Sunday night.
I think you've seen that at the end of the Livingston game. They're like this. They can smell it. We can smell it. We can taste it. It's like I think the team are going to go over and be professional and do the job on St Mirren because they beat them, right? So it's like motivation enough that they beat it at Ibrox, and I think it will be far too strong for them. And then it's on to Sunday, but I fancy Rangers to win quite comfortably because the atmosphere is building amongst the team, and you can really feel it.
Yeah, I could see that as well. Actually, this is the first time in a while going into it. I could see a big score because St Mirren are really well organised. They obviously showed that, particularly at home, hard to score against. Even though that the League Cup one was 3-2, but I mean, they're a difficult team to break down in general, but I think if you take them out of that comfort zone at Ibrox and stuff like that, you're also going to have people coming in. Hadji's going to come in fresh to the game. He'll almost certainly start. You've got, if Arfield's going to play, he's got more minutes in the legs and stuff like that. I think it could be it's sort of a case of now that the Livingston one was a tough away game, and also, but it's just so close now that I think when they know that it's nearly there, there's the motivation's going to be so high. And I think you could just tell from the way Gerrard was getting on last night, how much it meant to him, that there's no chance of him changing anything or putting out a side that he doesn't think is the absolute best until the thing's won. So yeah, I could see it being pretty comfortable.
You think it's going to be the same 11 that started on last night, or can you see there's a wee bit more tweaking with it being at Ibrox? You maybe bring somebody like Hadji in again and kind of a wee bit more attacking intent there than perhaps a Glenn Kamara or an Arfield.
I think it depends about what happens with Patterson, or what happens with any bans or anything. If anything comes through, if he's available to play, great. But might have to pay somebody else at right back, and it's a little bit of an issue because Balogun's out and so is Tavernier. So that might change, but I don't think there'll be wholesale changes, but there might be one or two. I can see a Hadji coming back in. Yeah,
I think Hadji would definitely start in the sort of inside right position, and then you shift Rebo back, and then I don't know who you go. I think Davis stays in the team, but whether you go with Arfield alongside him instead of Kamara, and you drop Kamara out for a rest, and you're really quite attacking, or as Cammy says, if Balogun isn't fit, you don't know whether he maybe could have made the bench last night, but you leave him out just in case something happens for the weekend. But if they're all out in that position, it'd be pretty bad.
It's weird, isn't it?
They are all out. Who do you pick?
Well, that's what I'm just thinking. Kamara, maybe?
I think he mentioned Scott Arfield, didn't he? And
Arfield would probably be better.
He said Arfield, because Arfield, I think, started as a right midfielder, not so much a right winger, but yeah.
Yeah, he was a kind of attacking right midfielder, but he played a lot at, particularly at Burnley, as a kind of defensive winger, to kind of use hipstery, trendy phrases. So it wasn't quite a wing back, but it wasn't quite a winger. It's sort of that kind of weird in between. Yeah. And I do think he's one of these players who's versatile enough. You can put him in pretty much, with the exception of centre back, and it'd make a hell of a fist of it. So,
yeah, no, that'll be interesting if it comes to that. But I mean, it's also not a bad thing if Rangers can get all of those, midfielders basically on the pitch at the same time. If you get all those personalities and players on, especially in a game where Durmus plays down the left for St Mirren, he offers a bit of a threat and a bit of creativity down there. But I mean, it's not as if it's some sort of European or international class winger that they need to worry about. So yeah, I'd also back him to do a job.
Just thinking, actually, I'm just looking at the SFA's disciplinary updates back on their website. We're on what, Thursday?
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter. Even if they cite Patterson tomorrow, assuming Rangers weren't just to immediately accept the charge, they would be able to play. Because you get like a kind of grace period to accept them, and if you decide you want to go to a hearing and whatever else, you're not going to have it done by Saturday. So it would then fall into that fortnight between St Mirren and the Old Firm. So you could probably game the system a little bit. Whether they would want to, because I don't know if you'd kind of want to be seen to challenge the charges as such if they were to come. But loopholes are loopholes, I suppose.
Aye. Can you not get a longer ban for that?
No,
to get rid of that? If you challenge it, but maybe not if you wait.
I'm sure it's only if you actually appeal, like an actual disciplinary panel decision for like a red card or something, and it's viewed as frivolous.
Yeah.
So you
see as well, it's the other thing, because Gerrard got sent off, and people are now wondering if he's going to be there. Now, I think it's not exactly 100% clear, but Robbie Nielsen gets sent off for something.
I think it was about 10 days between his red card and his ban coming into effect. So I would, at a push, I would imagine.
It was the middle of January, and then it wasn't until February 19th or something. So it was longer than 10 days. So it's like 3 weeks or something before he was banned.
You might squeeze in the Old Firm and then it come after it.
Aye.
Maybe a gap in between.
That, I mean, if that's an example, if that's the leading example, because it's very similar incident.
Yeah.
Gerrard should be available this weekend to manage the dugout as well. But that'd be a boost if we've got Patterson, because it's all quite silent at the minute with regards what's going to happen with that. But I mean, he would end up. It'd be good if he had him and then he plays. He plays Saturday St Mirren, he plays Slavia Prague, and he plays the other one. Then we get Tavernier back for the Old Firm. But as well, see, after this, what about the fact that we have a week off between Slavia Prague games? That's really, really interesting, and I think it's a major boost. But obviously, we'll go into that in more detail at the time. But a week off between the matches gives Rangers a real chance.
The quirk of the Scottish Cup being postponed, but as you say, we will look at that a wee bit more later on. But just before we wrap this one up, yesterday we did see the dates confirmed for the post-split fixtures, and the Scottish Cup is back on the slate. So without going into too much detail, domestic double.
Yes.
I think it's a real positive for Rangers to have that. It adds an extra dimension this season when the league could be finished early doors and then post split. Yeah, so there'll be an emphasis on trying to go unbeaten, definitely, and based on the sort of approach of this coaching staff and the team, will not want some sort of major drop off. But at the same time, it also puts you in a really strong position to really focus, or when you go to those Scottish Cup games, have everyone prepared and go into them, and also for the Europa League in a really winnable tie. So I think progression, Europa League, and there's absolutely no reason, as we can see, that Rangers are on their day at like 100% the best team in Scotland at the minute. So there's no reason why they can't win a knockout cup that comes at the end of the season.
I agree with that. Gives a nice competitive tinge in the latter stage. Rangers are on the verge of winning the title, obviously, so keeps everything taken over.
Happy days. So just as Cammy's internet starts to crap out, we'll wrap it up here. Thanks everybody for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll be back with more content over the weekend and next week. Thank you very much.